And we are back. Great Lakes State Football, episode 32, talking everything football in the great state of Michigan. I'm Vince.
I'm Kory, and I'm down in southeast Michigan right now, Novi area.
And I'm Brett, and I'm coming to you live from a hotel in Detroit, Michigan. I lied to you, Vince. I'm in Detroit. Kory and I had dinner tonight.
Does it blow your mind?
No, that's so weird. That's so weird. What a weird thing to lie about.
Well, we just thought you'd be mind blown because you get mind blown over stupid shit. So, anyways.
Oh my God, you're not in Chicago? You're in Detroit? No way.
Damn it, Brett. Our plan didn't work.
It backfired. Anyways, we have a special guest on this week. Introduce yourself, Tate.
What's up, everyone? My name's Tate Baker. Here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Tate was actually the very first guest on this podcast almost a year ago. I think it was, we said what was right before state finals, right? We previewed.
Yeah, it was about 10 months ago.
Post.
That's right.
Do we do post state finals? We did post.
It was post because the preview, I was your guys' first guest because it was you two and I picked the games, and then you brought me on, and then we had Tate. Yeah.
All right. So Tate is back almost full circle here, a little less than a year later. Tate has been rocking and rolling with a lot of really cool content, articles, and write-ups about West Side football, Grand Rapids area, mostly Ottawa, Kent, right? The different OK divisions, if I'm not mistaken. Have you ventured outside in terms of some of your write-ups outside of the OK conferences?
Nope. So yeah, just primarily all OK conference. I've been keeping my eye on some other, I guess, local-ish teams like Whitehall and, other West Side, if you want to count Edwardsburg as West Side, but primarily just like the OK, red through silver.
And I will obviously make sure that we have Tate's social media linked as well as his Substack, right? You use Substack for, if I remember correctly, for your write-ups, or have you switched to something different?
Yep. So you can find me on tatebaker.substack.com as well as prepredzone.com for everything high school football related.
So if you check the description of the video or audio versions of the podcast, you will find the link. We'll make sure to, obviously, when we share out this episode, you'll have the link available. So definitely check out what Tate's doing. A lot of cool write-ups, putting out a lot of cool content. We're very excited about a lot of various, outlets, especially, we had Goose Poop on last week. A lot of really cool stuff going on right now on social media and online with people covering high school sports. So that's great, especially high school football. It's always awesome to have more people talking about high school football than not. But we are going to talk with Tate more specifically, as we just mentioned, about the OK conference, really specifically about the OK Red division. The OK Red division title race is heating up. Coming down, as we're going to get to a little bit later here, to the Rockford Caledonia game, as it's basically kind of evened itself out, or kind of, things have decided itself over the last few weeks as teams have beaten each other up. So just in kind of general here, Tate, before we kind of get into the discussion, what have been your thoughts overall this year on OK Red football?
Yeah, going into the season, I think everyone kind of circled Caledonia and Rockford as the two most complete teams, not only in the OK Red, but maybe in all of West Michigan, and certainly two teams in Division I that will continue to be, talked about as favorites from the West Side to get to Ford Field. And just so happens that, those two teams are meeting in week 9. So there's been an escalated buildup each week as both teams have, not only remained undefeated, but have continued to, dominate each matchup, and they look like they're, improving and getting better in all facets of the game each week.
Have there been, in your opinion, any obviously going into the season, if a lot of people were picking Rockford and Caledonia, then that's not really surprising that they're both sitting at, 6-0 right now. Have there been any surprises in the OK Red, or anything you're not surprised that Rockford and Caledonia are doing well, but anything that's kind of stuck out as a surprise?
East Kentwood got off to a really hot start. I picked East Kentwood to upset Rockford. I was way off in that prediction. And then week 4? But they had the impressive win over Brother Rice, and a program like East Kentwood,
they almost beat Muskegon too.
Yeah, that's right. So I know I was feeling a little risky with that pick, but the Falcons are a program that's always got immense amount of talent, and some years they put together, some years they don't. Another team that I think a lot of people were looking to maybe take a leap this year, and they really haven't. It's Hudsonville. Last year, I think they had 4 or 5 one-score losses, and that's kind of carried over into this year. A team that had a lot of talent on offense, especially big wideouts, really skilled quarterback in Trey Carr, but they've seemed to not be able to get over the hump there. In Granville, they've been equally impressive, minus their defense. They've kind of given up a lot of points, but they can score with pretty much anyone in the state, I would say. One player in particular I should mention is freshman running back. His name is Tank Terry, younger brother of former
name.
That's a great name.
That's
a football name. Yeah.
His brother was a former standout at Granville as well. So freshman running back he's had a lot of big games over 100 yards. So, I mean, for a freshman to do that, especially that position, that's been something that's caught my eye, definitely.
That level of football too.
Yeah, especially in OK Red, going against athletes of that stature, week in and week out, and be able to sustain the hits that come with that.
And Tate, I just want
to say West Ottawa. Let's give West Ottawa a couple of props there. They've been doubled their win total and are kind of sneakily
tripled it over the last 3 years.
That's right, and they're a sneaky playoff contender right now. So watch out for West Ottawa.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up, Tate, with West Ottawa potentially making the playoffs. I'm looking at this News to You mapatology right now. In District 1, they have Rockford, the 1 seed, playing West Ottawa in the opening game, and then Granville EK in the other side of that district. And then Caledonia is in the same district as Grand Ledge, Holt, and Howell. So that's really interesting that West Ottawa making the playoffs pushes Caledonia to the mid-Michigan region.
I'd be really surprised if it played out that way, though, because East Kentwood still has to play West Ottawa, Hudsonville, and Granville, and West Ottawa has East Kentwood, Caledonia, and Jenison. So I feel like one of those 2 teams will make the playoffs, either East Kentwood or Howell and West Ottawa. The only way they both make it is if they pull off an upset.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's gonna be tough for West Ottawa to make it, but nonetheless, it's impressive for them to get to the amount of wins that they have. Touching on Caledonia, they made the jump from Division II last year to Division I, and in the grand scheme of things, I think that honestly kind of might give them more of a potential to make a run in being in Division I opposed to Division II. It's going to be tough getting out of the district when you're playing essentially, all the teams that you've already played on your schedule. But when you look further down the road, you don't have to play teams such as like De La Salle or the other, Catholic league teams that really make up a lot of D2. They might run into DCC, but I'd be more worried about De La Salle and, teams. A couple of other teams that are in D2 than I would be in D1 for Caledonia's sake.
Well, and to their credit, they crushed Mona Shores in the district title game last year, which was a really, really surprising win to me. I mean, I knew Caledonia was good, but they beat Mona Shores by 37 points. So, I mean, I feel like they're going to hang with the best of them.
Yeah, no, they've got the most complete team that I've seen this year. Mason McKenzie, he's the best quarterback.
He's a senior this year, isn't he?
Yep, he's a senior.
I was just saying he got moved to a 3-star, right?
Yeah, Tate, you texted me that, I think.
Yeah, so I just did a little Q&A session with Mason. We talked a little bit about his recruiting and Coach Pennington coming over from Zeeland East 2 years ago, and how Mason and the seniors now have helped lay the foundation for the program that they're building and hope to consistently have at Caledonia. Right now, he's got a handful of GLIAC offers, one FCS offer, I believe, but he's got those intangibles that make him a special prospect in terms of his ability to make plays with both his legs and his arm. There are few that, can do that. He's a little bit undersized at maybe just 6 foot, but, I think he's going to be a heck of a player at the next level as well.
Tate, who do you see coming out of the west side of the state as like a title favorite? Do you think it's just a guaranteed Rockford? Or do you think Caledonia can give them a run for their money?
Right now I think Caledonia has the most complete offense. They have the ability to run the ball with Brack Townsend. He's a legitimate D1 prospect. He's a junior right now. I think he's going to get some big time Power 5 looks. He's already got a handful of Group of 5 looks, but he's the guy that they're going to be able to rely on when it gets into maybe some tricky weather games or kind of maybe a little bit different field conditions. And then just their number of weapons they have too. They've got a tight end, the coach's kid, who's, I believe he's committed to Central, another weapon on wide out. And then, their line, they lost a couple of guys from last year, but, they've seemed to pick up the pieces where they left off. And it's really, I think it's going to come down to what defense can make the most plays. And, we've seen with both Rockford and Caledonia, that's pretty even. So right now I would give the slight edge to Caledonia just based on the number of different ways that they can score the ball. And they're kind of like a more balanced attack that I like the Scots because of that.
Who do you think from the other divisions is a team that's trending in the upwards direction? I know you mentioned you had watched on stream the GRCC Catholic Central. Well, Catholic Central, I know a lot of people don't like it being called GRCC versus South Christian. Yeah, I know those are probably 2 hot teams. I don't know if there's anybody else or if you have anything to say about those teams.
D4, I really think it's going to come down to Whitehall and South Christian. I think those 2 teams are on a collision course for what looks like right now either the regional championship or the semifinal. South Christian, Jake DeHaan, he's one of the best two-way players that I've seen. I mean, he scored 4 touchdowns in 4 different ways against Grand Rapids Catholic Central.
Wow.
He had a pick 6, a receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a passing touchdown. And then he's impressive. And they've got this wide out. It's his first year playing football. It reminds me exactly of our buddy Dan Hummel's story. He's a star basketball recruit. He's only a sophomore, and he averaged about 15 points a game as a freshman on South Christian's varsity hoops team last year. And I believe he's got 6 touchdown receptions this year so far. I could be, shortchanging him a little bit, but he's just an absolute weapon on the outside that kids in high school just can't match up with. He's about 6'4", I think, and he's just, got those natural ball skills. So South Christian's definitely a team in D4, I think, has a legitimate chance at a state championship. Obviously Catholic Central in D5, and then West Catholic. I can't believe that they're in D6 now, but
that's crazy.
You gotta count on West Catholic to be there I would say at
first year in D6.
I think so. I don't remember them ever being in D6.
They used to be in D4 at one point, weren't they? Because I feel like they always play the evening game.
Yep. Yeah, they were in D4 and D5. Kind of toggling back and forth for the longest time. This has got to be the first year they're in D6, but I think right now they're matched up with like a Kent City of sorts in the first couple of rounds.
So. Oh yeah, you had texted me about that too.
So I got to feel bad for some of those schools that have great years and end up playing a team like West Catholic in the playoffs, but that's how it goes.
First year head coach though, and they've
Lance
been
Groves.
Bad. They've been poor.
Actually, Snooze to You right now has a district of Grand Rapids West Catholic hosting Muskegon Catholic Central.
That could be interesting.
And the other side of the district is Kent City hosting Montague. So,
yeah.
A lot can happen in 3 weeks, though. You never know everything changes in 3 weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, but still.
Yeah. So last year, West Catholic, they're pretty much, one-dimensional team with Tim Klaska, their outstanding running back, and they went and were able to add a quarterback from Wyoming and Bernie Varnsdale, and he's added, another dimension to that team. They're able to pass the ball around and kind of take some of the pressure off of Tim Klaska. So, I mean, they're running through the OK Blue right now, and I really don't see anyone kind of being able to match up with them from that D6 standpoint.
They really set the tone for their season, starting out and beating Edwardsburg. That's a huge win. That's probably the biggest win of the season in first game.
Yeah, that's Edwardsburg's only loss right now too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're D4, correct? Edwardsburg, or are they?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. D4.
Yep. They got beat by Unity Christian in the semifinals last year. So very good team.
So yeah, I think you're going to have a pretty good, representation from the West Side schools this year. We'll see. I think it's been quite some time since the D1 was represented by a Grand Rapids area school, but maybe this year could be the year with Caledonia. They look, just as good as I would say any team in the state.
Tate, what's your take on Forest Hill Central? They're a team that's been kind of beating up on teams, kind of somewhat quietly, it seems like, but they're still undefeated. Yeah,
I think that's almost their MO. They get things done quietly, almost each and every year. They've kind of ascended in that OK White as the cream of the crop, as Christian and East Grand Rapids have fallen off a little bit. But no, I definitely think that Forest Hill Central, should be looked at as a team that can make some noise. They're in D2 now, correct?
Yeah, D2.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So it's looking like they'll match up with Byron Center and Mona Shores. Maybe Reese Puffer. Reese Puffer's been a team in the OK Green that's made some noise. They got a couple of good athletes over on the offensive side.
New head coach.
That's right. But no, I look out for Reese Puffer making a little bit of noise in the D2 playoffs. Those are some winnable games. If they can avoid Mona Shores, but Mona Shores and Forest Hill Central do seem to be kind of the cream of the crop in D2. I kind of wish that they would have a chance to avoid each other in districts, but it looks like they're going to be matching up in districts.
That's as we talked with Goose Poop, the inevitability of MHSAA football playoffs, just with the geography for the districts. It does kind of stink because you get high profile matchups sometimes in round one, but a lot of times in round two.
Yep.
It is what it is what it is.
I think it's somewhat a double-edged sword too. In one aspect, it kind of sucks that you have some good teams that'll lose early. Personally, I just think of our 9-0 Grand Ledge team losing in the playoffs to Lowell first game.
Defending state champs.
Yeah, defending state champs.
Who went back to 2 more state titles.
Yeah.
2008, we played Rockford, and they won a
state title.
Yeah. Well, but then you get the other side of things. Sometimes it opens the door for a team that might be able to sneak in to like a semifinal or state finals game, and they haven't been there in a long time or even ever been there. But also then sometimes you get some lopsided state championship games. So I think it is what it is. I mean, you can't have teams from the west side going to the east side and north to south just because of money and geography. But I think it's the best that they can do with what they're given.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. It's tough, when you're dealing with especially rural teams that have to travel and dealing with their budgets for doing so. They kind of do the best what they can. So yeah, that kind of lends itself to the matchups, but we'll take it.
Especially nowadays, I don't know how you would change it now with there's bus driver shortages all over the place. I don't know how that would even change now. It now more so than ever, it wouldn't work, in my opinion, with how things are going for public schools.
Do they still have that kind of funky rule where UP teams can only cross the bridge once during their playoff run? I think that was a thing when we were in high school because we had to go up to Kingsford for a district championship game.
Jesus. And
that was like
more points.
And that was like an 8-hour car ride.
Oh, and you guys were the favorite too, and you had to go up there because of that rule.
Yeah, I believe that's why we had to go up there. It made it for a memorable trip. especially since, CP got the win, but it was definitely an odd experience having to travel 8 hours for a first round matchup.
That was a
kinda
first
cool.
round matchup too.
Yep. Yeah. It was first round matchup of the districts.
Jeez. Yeah, that's
Yeah, you guys
School-
were
did you
undefeated
take a-
too, weren't you?
Charter bus or school bus?
The football players, so I wasn't on the team,
Oh,
but the football players, they did have a charter bus, and
Oh,
then
thank God.
I can't remember if we had other type of transportation for any students, but
Tate, you probably ran up there. You and the cross country team.
yeah, I was
you and your 5-minute miles.
that was about 35 pounds ago, and a lot of-
35 beers ago.
35 pounds and 10,000 beers ago.
that's 100% the truth. Oh man, yeah, that was fun memories though, that's for sure.
So Tate, now that we're in week 6, we only have a couple weeks left of the season. You got any big games you're planning on attending?
I've got that Rockford Caledonia one definitely on the map. I think there's a couple
You do plan going to that game?
Yep, yeah, I'll definitely be going to that one. I think I want to say that there's 4 or 5 potential games in week 9, which kind of sucks that have some type of league title implications. Let me check really quick. I think West Catholic and the OK Blue could be playing someone in week 9, as well as, let's see, Mona Shores and Muskegon. That'll be a big one in week 9.
Yeah.
But I think Mona Shores should probably have that one wrapped up by then. Well, maybe not as many, but probably those 2 for sure are top of my list for the games with 3 weeks left. That'll be must see TV for sure.
West Catholic and Unity Christian.
Okay, that's the other
They're
one.
both undefeated in the
thinking of.
conference, and they're playing week 9.
Okay, yeah. So that was the other one I was thinking of. So yeah,
they should both be 9-0 and probably 7-2. Unity Christian has 2 non-conference losses.
Yeah, it's nice that everything kind of comes to fruition in week 9. But from a viewer standpoint, I kind of wish those big matchups were a little bit more spread out. But
Right.
hey, that's gonna make for great atmospheres.
Absolutely.
Across the state and a couple of do or die situations.
Any other surprises you think we should be looking out for? Any unexpected shakeups in the OK Red between now and the end of the season? Or predictions with playoffs?
I was going to say, do you think those 5 D1 teams get in?
I don't. I think Vince was on the money when he said that those 4 will get in, and we'll
in my opinion, it'll be Caledonia, Rockford, Granville, and then either East Kentwood or Howland West Iowa. It just depends on how they finish because they have to play each other.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I think whoever wins that matchup is in the playoffs.
Right. I would 100% agree with that. I would say, maybe a sneaky game might be Rockford against Hudsonville next week. Hudsonville's no slouch. They've had a tough go. But hey, they've won 2 games in a row. They blanked Jenison last week, 38-0.
That game.
They got their Rockford game last year was 21-16.
Yeah, so those 2 schools always play each other tough. They're longtime, OK Red rivals. I wouldn't put it past Hudsonville, to be able to put something together to pull off the upset, especially, with the senior group that they have, a lot of athletes, and they know that they're, playing with their lives on the line. They can probably sneak in, to the playoffs if they went out at 5-4. I would say that they'd definitely be in, given their strength of schedule. So if I would circle one game that's got a little bit of upset potential, that would be that Hudsonville Rockford game this upcoming week.
You heard it here first, folks.
I knew that was coming.
Let's unless you guys have anything else, maybe we should end it with the
Rockford
Caledonia.
No, I got something. I got 2 things off script I want to ask Tate.
All right.
Because for those of you that know Tate, he's not only a high school football guy, I want you to give me one word to describe the Michigan football team and the Lions, and then a quick explanation on your expectations for the rest of the year. So we'll start with the Lions first. Give me one word to describe the Lions season this year, then your expectations, and we'll follow that up with Michigan.
All right. Fun to watch. I'll just put it that way. I don't live and die with the Lions like I do my Wolverines. So if they're going to be scoring 40 points a game and giving up 40 points a game, at least that'll be entertaining.
I gotta say, that's great you said that, because I was thinking the same thing. I was listening to Anthony Bellino the other day, and he had a caller on, and some guy was like, "If you watch the Lions expecting them to win, you got to find a different team. You just gotta enjoy what you're watching. Like when you watch Matt Stafford throw the ball to Golden Tate and across the middle, and he runs for 40 yards and a touchdown, that's fun. You don't watch the Lions to watch a winning team.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
it's never been a winning team.
Yeah, rebuilding since 1957.
That's right. I like the trajectory that they're going in, though.
Yeah, I do like Dan. I'm a Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I think a little bit. I'm not, ingesting the Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid as much as the rest of everyone, but
Kory.
but
Kory's
blue mustache.
Snorting it. Yeah,
I do like Dan Campbell immensely compared to Fat Trisha. So
yeah, they play him this week. He's the OC.
Yes,
He's a tear apart our dog shit defense.
I'll off myself. I will literally kill myself.
I can't wait for that game. How is he the OC? Someone explain that to me. How do you go from being a defensive guru to being an offensive coordinator in the National Football League? That doesn't make any sense.
He's a rocket scientist. He can do whatever he wants.
Oh man. And then regarding Michigan, I would say that I'm very afraid of the Penn State game. Penn State and Ohio State, I think, is a season. The rest of the games are going to be, I don't think they'll be as competitive. You saw what they did with Iowa. They kind of, Harbaugh gets into that kind of, the kind of thing where he doesn't like to show too much. And if we're going to be able to beat a team just by running Blake Corum 30 times, then he's going to do it and not have to worry about the potential of turnovers and whatnot. But Penn State does scare me. Their secondary is loaded with NFL guys. It looks like Clifford is playing a little bit better than last year. And I don't know that running back too. I can't remember
Nick McDonald.
Yeah. So
Nick something.
McDonald. I think that Penn State game and then obviously the Buckeye game are I think the two biggest chances for losses. If they can avoid a loss against Penn State, I think they should be going to a New Year's Six bowl at minimum. And we shall see though.
Nick Singleton, that's running back.
Singleton, okay.
If we don't find a pass rush by Penn State, we will lose to Penn State.
Yeah. I think Michigan at the end of that Iowa game, that something clicked on that defensive line. Either that or the offensive line of Iowa just gave up. But their twists that they had going on just looked absolutely lethal.
Well, the guy that's changed his name
Okie.
Okie. I'm just gonna go with that. He's been coming on as of late, so maybe that'll be a guy that'll kind of come into form towards the end of the year, and hopefully in a couple of weeks when they have Penn State. That would be huge.
He's the former 5-star out of Alabama.
Yeah. Yep. So
and, wherever else he went to
Houston and Tennessee Martin.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I thought he went to TAMU, but I was like I knew it was Tennessee something.
He's been around the block, that's for sure.
He's 32.
Essentially.
All right. Well, guys, you got anything else you want to add? Otherwise, we can wrap things up here with Tate.
Appreciate it, Tate. We'll have to have you on again either during the playoffs or shortly after the playoffs. I know we'll be in touch, obviously.
One last question. Prediction, Rockford, Caledonia. Who you got here for the conference title?
I'm going to go Caledonia.
Give a score, too. Give a score.
Caledonia, 28. Rockford, 21.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. It was a 26-29 game. Or excuse me, no, that's not right. It was
28-21.
28-21 last year. I was to say it was Rockford won like right at the end. right? It was like Zach Ahern had a touchdown right at the end of the game, I think.
So last
Or
year,
no, 17-14.
Sorry,
17-14.
I
Yeah,
got confused
Caledonia
with-
got beat 17-14 by Rockford. It was a very close game.
It was a fumble. It was a strip sack fumble recovery by Rockford deep inside Caledonia's territory, which pretty much gave Rockford the game. Caledonia probably would have won at Rockford last year if not for that play. So I'm gonna go with a little bit of revenge factor for Caledonia in that one.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. We got Caledonia conference champs in the OK Red, according to our very own Tate Baker. All right, Tate, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you having us on, or having you on with us here. If I can talk correctly. Jeez, appreciate you coming on with us. We'll have to have you back on very soon to talk about playoffs and hopefully state championship games. That'll be fun. Please stay on. We will be continuing with our picks from last week, talking about the games for high school and college and our preview and picks for the upcoming week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Hope you enjoyed our conversation with Tate Baker. Please check our description of either the video or audio versions of the episode. If you would like to check out more from him, we will have links to his social media as well as his Substack page where he puts out his articles. Tate does a really great job profiling west side of the state, Michigan high school football. So please check out his stuff, and we look forward to having him on again for playoffs and state championships. So that'll be a lot of fun. With that, we are going to move into high school football, talking about our picks of the week from last week. We had Goose Poop on last week to do the picks with us, and it was a lot of fun. And we did have to change. I will say this. We did have to change. So if you were listening or watched the episode last week, what we did is Goose Poop did not have the user picks finalized yet. He doesn't like to finalize those. I believe he said until, what do you say, guys? The day before, I think, something like that.
Yep.
It's
Day before
when he likes to finalize those picks. So we did not have the user picks. What we ended up having was the computer model picks, I believe, right?
Correct.
So originally, if you watched the episode, was the Grand Ledge one the only one that changed?
Yes.
I think the other four were the same. The computer picked the same as the users. So
Yeah.
the only thing that changed was the computer had DeWitt and the users picked Grand Ledge by 53%. So the rest were all the same though. All right. So let's kind of run through our games from last week. So sorry, Kory, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say, branching off of that. Well, actually, I'll get into it when we get there. Never mind. Disregard.
So our first game last week, we had Charlotte versus Portland. Portland was a unanimous pick from all four of us, and Portland beat Charlotte handily, 40-13. Charlotte was a team coming to this game that I think had a lot of hype surrounding them because they were having their best season in 18 years at 5-0. And without sounding too abrasive, I think Portland kind of put them in their place a little bit. Any thoughts on this game, guys, before we move to our next one?
Exactly what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah, I think Charlotte is who we thought they were.
Charlotte's
who we thought they were.
Now
They'll still make the playoffs, but I think to your point, Portland is just a better team. We all knew it. Charlotte's schedule to that point in time going into last week was pretty subpar.
They have a really good win over Olivet week 1, although Olivet is a division smaller than them. That Olivet week 1 win, I think, is pretty impressive. They beat Detroit, they beat Lansing Catholic Central week 3, but that game is not as impressive as of late. They do have Sexton next, and Sexton almost beat Portland. Sexton lost to Portland 21-20 and is sitting at 3-3. So with those athletes that Sexton usually has, that might be a sneaky possible upset over Charlotte. So they're going to have to be careful of that one. And then Charlotte follows up with a Flint Hamady team that's 6-0 right now. So 2 divisions smaller at D6, but still, Charlotte has 2 tough games coming up before they finish with Fowlerville, who I think they should beat. The next game we had Forest Hill Central versus Lowell. This was also a unanimous pick that we all got correct. Forest Hill Central we picked to beat Lowell, but it was a very close game. And I said this. I said it would probably be a close game. Forest Hill Central beat Lowell 14-7. Thoughts on this one?
I don't really know a whole lot about either of these teams other than our ties to Goose Poop. But Forest Hill Central's rolling, so you gotta go with that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kory. 7 points for Lowell. The previous low points that Lowell has scored this entire year is 35, which is scored the last 2 weeks. So for Forest Hill Central to hold Lowell to 7 points is pretty impressive. But also, you turn that around, it's really impressive that Lowell held Forest Hill Central to only 14 points, where their previous low was 21 points against Byron Center this year. So, I think it was just I wasn't at the game, but just seeing the score and seeing the previous results of past games this year, it sounds like a pretty sound football game to me.
I think something that's noteworthy is Lowell's finish here. So they have 3 games left against Grand Rapids Christian, who is 3-3.
That's a win.
East Grand Rapids, who's 2-4.
That's probably a win.
Northview, who's 2-4. So if they finish 7-2, that's their best record in 6 years, which is pretty crazy. Their last 6-win season was 2017. So I mean, Lowell, if they can win out, possibly a return to form in terms of their former program standards, I would say. So even with a tough loss to a very good Forest Hill Central team.
How long has that coach been there, Brett?
Probably like 3 years.
Should we mention right now that he's going to be coming on?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty
good plug.
set in stone. Yeah.
Good plug. So Lowell's head coach will be coming on, joining us on the week of October 16th. So we'll have him on in 2 weeks.
Jacob Hennigy.
Yep. Looking forward to having him on. The next game was a game that I abstained from, but I did pick my hometown Comets, Grand Ledge versus DeWitt. I said we had the potential to pull the upset. Goose Poop, his model, had DeWitt by 3 scores. We actually, when Goose Poop put out the biggest upsets of the week in the state of Michigan, Grand Ledge over DeWitt was one of the biggest upsets of the week. His users had Grand Ledge at 53%. So there was a slight edge there. Kory and Brett picked DeWitt. I had a alternate option because I am an unbiased participant in the game as a coach. We had me pick the Rockford Granville game.
You're too biased. That's the problem.
Part of me thinks I should have gotten 2 points for this because I would have picked Grand Ledge, but
no,
you got the easier game.
Yeah.
I still picked Grand Ledge, but Grand Ledge, we won 56-49.
One thing I just wanted to say, so we were talking with Goose Poop on Thursday, or it might have been Friday, when we got his finalized picks, and he submitted them to us and said, hey, look, GL from the user picks jumped ahead. And so we were like, yeah, it's because Vince has done the numbers on this game 55,000 times, so it skewed the data. But come to find out, DeWitt's fans were the ones picking against themselves. And
so, Goose Poop shared that the majority of the submissions were coming from people who looked up DeWitt's schedule, not Grand Ledge. I even admitted, I think I ran about 4 or 5 different scenarios, and actually, so sorry if any of my players are listening, I ran, I think, only 1 or 2 of them where we beat DeWitt. I was trying to see some different scenarios with the playoffs. So I had a few with DeWitt winning. So it's very interesting to see that DeWitt's fan base was picking them to lose that game. And as Goose Poop texted us, it maybe signified that they knew something that we didn't.
Exactly what I was going to get at. Was there anything fishy that happened, Vince? Did somebody not play or anything like that? Or was it just
Sean Foster had 7 touchdowns and 396 yards.
Our quarterback had a historic night. He tied 3rd place all time for rushing touchdowns in a game. He was 1 more run shy of being in the state record books for rushing yards in a game. The minimum requirement's 400. He had 396, but 7 rushing touchdowns is good to tie 3rd place all time. Very impressive. I would also add Alan Holler, who is the athletic director at Michigan State. His son, I believe his first name's Brian, did not play. And he was a pretty good athlete for DeWitt. So he was a guy that was on our radar coming to the game, and we don't remember seeing him. He was on the sideline, but we don't remember seeing him play. And I don't remember if he was in street clothes or not. So I will also add that DeWitt, doesn't quite have their quarterback situation figured out. They had a really, D1 Ivy League quarterback in Ty Holtz the last couple of years, and now they're playing 3 different guys at quarterback. So that Bryce Kurtz will run the Wildcat. They have Aspen Keys, who is a sophomore who gets some reps at quarterback. And they have another kid who rotates in there as well, or they'll play them at the same time. So not consistency at the quarterback. Now, rushing game is still very, very good, but still a very good team.
There's a lot of teams that struggle in the quarterback situation. You don't need to give DeWitt any more excuses than they already have.
I was going to say, if you don't have
I was trying to be as unbiased as possible.
If you don't have your quarterback by week 6, you probably don't have a quarterback. So let's just
you know what excuses are?
Stinky buttholes.
They're like buttholes. Everyone's got them and they all stink.
With that, unless you guys want anything else, we can go to the next game here. The next game was Walled Lake Western versus Davison. This was almost a unanimous pick. Kory, myself, and Goose Poop all had Davison. Brett picked Walled Lake Western for the upset. Now, in Walled Lake Western's favor, they did put up 38 points. However, Davison scored 50. Any thoughts on this one?
Davison's just good. I don't know what you want from them. They have a tough schedule, man. Holy shit.
Davison has a
tough schedule.
Davison, for anyone listening or watching, Davison opened up the year with Clarkston, Detroit Catholic Central, Traverse City Central, who was in the D2 state championship game last year. Then they played Walled Lake Western as another non-conference game, who was 5-0 coming into that game. Then they end the season with Grand Blanc and Lapeer.
That's crazy.
It is a gauntlet of a schedule. And they're 5-1.
Coach still there?
I'm pretty sure it's still the same head coach. It was Grand Blanc's head coach who left after last season. I think, as far as I know, Davison's same head coach that won the state title in 2019 and went back to the state title in 2020 is still there. So Davison had a down year last year. Davison went 5-4 and actually missed the playoffs. They did not apparently have enough playoff points, even losing to 4 teams who all made the playoffs. Their 5 wins were not valued enough to make the playoffs at 5-4. This year they're sitting at 5-1. They have Carmen Ainsworth next, who has 1 win. So they will definitely get to 6 wins. They will be in the playoffs this year. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out with Grand Blanc and Lapeer in their last 2 games. Not to discredit Walled Lake Western. I just don't think they play as tough a schedule. I said that on the podcast last week. I think Walled Lake Western's probably very good, but they're also Division II. Davison's they might be D3 this year. They're down to under 1,100 kids. So they might be borderline D3. I did not check and see if they dropped to D3 or not.
So I was really surprised. I watched this game on Bally Sports and I was just
this was a Bally Sports game?
Yeah, it was a game of the week. And I was just internally super confused because Walled Lake Western was getting their butts kicked the entire game. And then I'm looking at the score we have here. I was like, what the heck? That doesn't seem right. Davison won 52-14.
Oh, we have this typed in wrong?
Oops. Yeah, they won 52-14. I was thinking, holy shit, did they score that many points?
Oh, yeah. I just pulled it up 52-14. Okay.
Yeah, so I turned the game off with 3 minutes left and they only had 14 points.
We gotta fix that.
Wait a minute. What did I miss?
I'll fix it right now. Yeah.
I wonder how I got 38 then.
Maybe you pulled up last year's score.
That's the score of the Michigan Tech Wayne State game. Or Davenport. Michigan Tech Davenport game.
I don't know.
Right?
I look them up on Twitter. I don't know.
Sorry for anyone listening who had heard me say the score and was like, what the hell are you talking about? My bad, dog.
My bad.
Our bad. Davison won 52-14, so it's pretty handily.
To our defense, we enter in a lot of data every week, and it eventually just all blends together.
Between the high school games, NAI, D3, D2, D1, there's a lot of games we're going through. So anyway, last game of the week from last week was Zeeland West versus Muskegon Mona Shores. This was a tough pick. Goose Poop's users had Zeeland West, and I believe his computer model also had Zeeland West. Mona Shores blew out Zeeland West 34-6. in a statement win. That is absolutely a statement win. I believe going into that game, Zeeland West was 5-0.
The Ducks were hot.
They were running hot.
Now they're cooked.
While I will say this, Zeeland West really hadn't beaten anybody. Well, yeah, no, they hadn't really beaten anyone that impressive. Their most impressive win was Muskegon the week before, 38-36. Before that, they beat all teams with losing records, 500 or worse. So looking at that, I think that makes sense. Mona Shores, I think, has a much more impressive game against Rock. I guess the Rockford game is really the only difference here, with which we talked about last week, how that Rockford game they had in the bag and just could not finish it. They were up big in the fourth quarter and allowed Rockford to find a way back into that game. So Goose Poop had Zeeland West. Kory had Zeeland West, and then Brett and I both picked Mona Shores. Mona Shores won 34-6. Any thoughts on that one, guys?
I'm pissed.
I'm not surprised that Mona Shores won. It's kind of a clash of styles. Zeeland West, a team that historically likes to run the ball, likes to control a possession, long 5-6 minute drives, where Mona Shores has kind of had a mix of philosophies. That they were airing it out a little bit, and then they started running the ball, and they had that Brady kid last year, 2 years ago, and now they're running the ball again. So anyways, no, I'm not surprised, to answer your question.
So right now, Goose Poop, after this week, Goose Poop went 4-1. He is in the lead now at 22-8. His model, or his users, he is just using the users, not the computer models. Excuse me. So his users have been helping him out big time, 22-8. Brett is in a close second place at 21-9. Your boy here had a 5-0 week. So I am now in third place at 20-10. And Kory sitting dangerously close to the wings of death.
Give me them wings, boy.
19-11. But as we had mentioned with Tate, there's a lot of football left. A lot of football left. So we're going through the state championship. Football left. So someone's going to get the Blazing Wings challenge, though. All right. With that, should we get into our picks of the week for next week?
Yes, sir. Daddy.
Yes, Daddy. All right. So picks of the week for week 7. I can't believe there's only 3 weeks left of high school football. For week 7, as always, we tried to vary up the teams that we are picking here, try to get some high-profile games in terms of bigger divisions, but also trying to pick some smaller teams and make sure that we're picking teams, that maybe aren't overlapping with some of the other outlets. Our first game is a very small matchup between a D6 team, two D6 teams, in Reed City, who is 5-1, and Kent City, who is 6-0. I think, Kory, you're starting us off this week.
Yeah, I'm kicking us off this week. It's tough when you're picking these really tiny schools like this because you really have no idea. I'm going to lean heavily on the fact that Reed City is, I'm going to say, significantly bigger than Kent City, but it's only like 150 students. But I am going to go with
proportionally, that's still like a third.
44 students bigger. 44 students bigger.
That's it?
Reed City's 424 this year, and Kent City's 380.
Yeah, but I'm saying generally, if you look at like
10% bigger, it's 10% bigger.
But no, I am going to go with Reed City due to their size.
Kory, I'm surprised you didn't mention your favorite food place in Reed City.
Also, if you ever need really good Mediterranean food in Reed City, Michigan, now if you've ever been there, you'll realize that does not make sense. J&A Grocery, great Mediterranean.
I am also going to pick Reed City. And can I read off for you the points that Reed City has put up this year? Reed City is 5-1, but even with one loss, here's the point totals they've put up: 64, 40, 45, 52, 52, 62. They've scored 315 points in 6 games. They're averaging over 50 points a game. That's absurd. So yeah, I'm going with Reed City, even though Kent City is 6-0. They are scoring pretty good points, and Kent City has 3 shutouts. Reed City is giving up some more points. But with that kind of firepower, I just think it's going to be a lot more challenging for Kent City to keep up. Reed City also has history and tradition on their side. I believe Reed City, if I remember correctly, was in our Northern Michigan regional ranking. They've had quite a bit of success over the last 10 years.
So that comes to me. I'm going to have to go with Reed City as well. Reed City has missed the playoffs one time since 2007. Now that doesn't mean a lot, but also, but I guess it does a little bit. It's a testament to their program. But Reed City and Kent City also have a similar opponent this year in Central Montcalm, who Reed City beat 52-14 and Kent City beat 28-27 in a close one in week 2. Like Kory mentioned, Reed City is the largest school. I have family ties to Reed City. Shout out Uncle Jeb if you're listening. And Grandma, if you're listening, you're there as well. And Uncle Jake also lives there. So, yeah, I'm going the Coyotes.
All right. Our next game of the week is a very interesting matchup. We have a Chelsea team who won. They're the defending D4 state champs. Playing a rejuvenated Tecumseh team, a 6-0 Tecumseh team that's having their best season in 9 years. So the last time they won 6 or more games was 2013. Chelsea has one loss this year. They got upset week 1, 6-3 by a Trenton team that's 5-1. Very interesting loss. Since then, they've rattled off 5 straight wins. Kory, what do you think? This is a tough one, man.
Here's what I'm going to say. With the rich history of Chelsea football being very successful over the last decade, if not longer, and their 39-13 record versus Tecumseh, I just don't see it happening. So I'm going to take Chelsea by 14.
Oh, you're picking the spread. Mark that down.
This is a tough one. So they currently have they have 3 common opponents. And the 3 common opponents that they've played are not very good.
They're terrible.
4 common opponents, because they both have played Jackson now. So Pinckney, Adrian, Ypsilanti, and Jackson. Jackson to me is a pretty so Grand Ledge, coaching at Grand Ledge. We had an opportunity to play Jackson this year. We fortunately found a way to win. We did not play very well defensively, beat them in overtime by 1 point on a 2-point conversion. Chelsea played them the next week after us and also struggled with them. Only beat them 17-0. Played a better defensive game, but could not put up points. Tecumseh just played Jackson and beat them 69-46.
Yep.
I think this is Tecumseh's year. They have not beaten Chelsea in 9 years. I'm going to go with Tecumseh to pull the upset. Kory, you said Chelsea, right?
I said Chelsea, yes.
I'm going to have Tecumseh. I'm assuming this is going to be considered an upset, but I'm going to pick Tecumseh.
Vince, that's a very bold pick, especially with the stakes where they're at right now, being close-necked. Chelsea's been arguably one of the best programs in the state the last 5 years. They won the state championship last year. I know I'm going to pick Chelsea to beat Tecumseh.
Okay. Chelsea. All right. Our next game, we have Whitehall versus Ludington. Whitehall is a team that has been running through people. I guess we could call it the surprises of the year in Michigan high school football, because Whitehall has not had more than 8 wins in since 2014. They've actually never had a double-digit season in school history, and they're sitting at 6-0. They crushed Hudsonville Unity Christian week 1, who was in the D4 state title last year. They crushed a Hastings team who currently is sitting, I believe, at 5-0. If I can get my computer to load.
I can tell you. You're asking or are you telling?
I'm trying to get my computer to load. It won't load. Just trying to see what Hastings was at.
The Saxons.
The Saxons.
They've been good for a couple of years now, too.
For whatever reason, my computer is not working for me right now. It's just spinning. I believe Hastings has either 1 or 2 losses. Hastings is doing pretty well this year. So
There's 5-1.
that's what I thought. I thought they had only 1 loss. So very interesting matchup here. Kory, what do you think?
So I'm just going to kick it off with Whitehall is averaging 51.5 points a game right now, which is a lot of points. And Ludington has given up 30 twice, 21. But other than that, they've had a shutout. They've given up 7 and 14. I think Whitehall continues to put up a crazy amount of points. I'm not real confident in Ludington's defense to hold them. So I think they loaded up on Ludington. I think they kind of run through them.
Well, and to echo Kory, an interesting common opponent is Muskegon Oak Ridge, who has won a few state titles.
I was just going to say that.
In the 21st century. Ludington got beat by them 30-18. Whitehall just beat them 42-8.
Exactly.
Is this unanimous, Brett?
Yeah, unanimous. Mark me down. Whitehall, mini Wisconsin. They look just like Wisconsin. At least their helmets do.
So our 4th game here is an interesting matchup. It's a D1 matchup, but it's 2 teams who maybe don't have the highest profile in terms of statewide matchups, but it is a big time game in terms of playoff implications. And so the game that we're looking at here is Holland West Ottawa versus East Kentwood. Holland West Ottawa is a bit rejuvenated this year at 3-3. An East Kentwood team who I believe is also 3-3 right now. Kory, what do you got?
So I was looking at it, and I thought East Kentwood's Brother Rice win was looking a little bit better than it is, but Brother Rice is 4-2, so that's actually
So
not
good.
really a thing.
2-4.
Or 2-4.
Yeah.
2-4.
Yeah.
Sorry, dyslexic.
Granted, be careful because look at who they've lost to.
Yeah, and that's where West Ottawa it gets a little hairy because they've lost to Rockford and Granville. Obviously, the Hudsonville loss isn't great, but this one's a gut pick. I'm going to go with West Ottawa.
Wow.
Mm.
All right. So it is an interesting matchup for a couple reasons. One, West Ottawa is looking at possibly making the playoffs straight up for the first time in 4 years, if you don't count the 2020 season, and also getting to a winning record. If they can beat East Kentwood, they'll likely beat Jenison in their final game, but they do have Caledonia the next week, who they will likely lose to. But obviously 5-4 would be a big time, win for this program after not winning a game for 3 straight years. Oh boy. They do have a couple common opponents right now. And I think because of these couple of common opponents that I am going to go with East Kentwood. I think East Kentwood has better athletes. I think West Ottawa has probably got some good coaching right now and they got a culture built back up. But I think East Kentwood, an incredible stadium that they opened up this year. But I think East Kentwood in a close game, just with their athletes, beats Holland West Ottawa.
I'm going to agree with Vince. I am going to go with East Kentwood. They definitely have the better athletes in this game. Although East Kentwood is 3-3, they are outscoring their opponents 111 to 107, whereas 3-3 West Ottawa are at a deficit, outscoring their opponents 124 to 151. So I am also going to pick East Kentwood to win this game.
Okay, and the last game of the week is hometown team here again. So Kory, Brett, and I are all Grand Ledge grads. Grand Ledge has a huge matchup. Obviously, as we mentioned already, Grand Ledge coming off in a huge win over DeWitt is matched up now with 6-0, number 8 ranked Lapeer in Division 1. Are we going to do this like last week? Am I ousted? Are we doing a different game for me? Because I'm just going to pick Grand Ledge. So what do you guys have a alternate game that you would like me to pick?
Well, we showed zero love to the Detroit area, so we're going to get some hate mail for that. But
should we get an East Side game? Do we have?
We got to get an East Side game. I don't have one. But
Okay. How about you two talk about your picks, and I will try and get one really quick while you guys get your picks here.
as we talked about it before, Grand Ledge clearly found something at quarterback with Sean Foster. But I will say, the Grand Ledge defense has been playing much better this season, and has statistically not been letting up points this year, other than last week, obviously, which was a shootout. With that being the case, I don't really like Lapierre's schedule. I think it's kind of soft as of now. Maybe not the full stretch, it won't be, but right now it is. So I'm going to take Grand Ledge to win versus Lapierre.
I'm going to go with Grand Ledge too. It doesn't take much to get you back on the bandwagon. I picked DeWitt last week primarily just because of the recent history and knowing that when Grand Ledge plays DeWitt, it's kind of a mental game too. Even though I never participated in that game, I know how it is just hearing Grand Ledge folks talk about, oh, we're playing DeWitt. But I think now Grand Ledge is starting to find their groove. Like Kory mentioned, quarterback had a big game last week. I think Lapierre is probably going to do everything they can do to prevent Sean Foster from scoring. Now, if Grand Ledge is a good coaching staff, they're probably thinking that is going to happen, and they have some tricks up their sleeve to kind of keep Lapierre honest on some things. So I am it's a home game. It's senior night. Well, homecoming, yeah. Technically the real senior night, last home game for the seniors in Grand Ledge. So I'm going to pick Grand Ledge to beat Lapierre. I think Lapierre is going to come in here and buff out their chest because they're undefeated and they're going to get punched in the mouth.
I like it, boys. I like it. Go Comets, baby. All right. So I found a game here, another high-profile D1 game, because that was the easiest one to find to avoid my bias as a participant in this game, because obviously I would just pick Grand Ledge. Utica Eisenhower, 5-1, playing 6-0, Macomb, Dakota.
We missed that one.
Yeah, the MAC Red. We kind of try to overlook some of the high-profile D1 games just because those get usually covered anyway. But yeah, we did kind of miss this one. Eisenhower's only loss is to Chippewa Valley, 33-7. Macomb, Dakota beat Chippewa Valley 28-17. So they do have that common opponent. It's a very interesting matchup here, but I think I'm going to pick Macomb, Dakota to beat Utica Eisenhower. I'm sure it'll be a very good game. But that is my alternate pick this week. I'm a little bit more last week. So, all right, if you guys are ready, I'll get into college. Good to go?
Yep, let's get it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. And with that, we're going to move from high school into the college ranks. Let's talk about our picks of the week from last week. So currently, the standings as they are for the college picks, Brett is in first place with a commanding lead at 19-6, followed by Kory in second at 16-9, and yours truly in a close third behind Kory at 15-10. I had a rough week last week, dropping 3 picks, unfortunately. So the first game we had last week was
Michigan. Hold on, Vince. You gotta tell the fans what we're doing.
Oh now. Boy, yeah. So here's the deal. We have decided we did not have an agreement on what we're going to do for the loser of the college picks. For the high school picks, the decision was that the loser would be doing the Buffalo Wild Wings Blazing Wings Challenge, eating 6 Blazing Wings. We're going to live stream it or just record it and post it, and that person would have to compliment the other 2 people. Well, this has changed a bit because now the loser of the college games will also be joining the loser of the high school games in the Blazing Wings Challenge, so that both of the losers will be giving the winner compliments. However, here is the catch. If the same person loses both, they are doing the Blazing Wings Challenge alone and not allowed to drink anything. Gonna be brutal if the same person loses both of these. Anyway, so moving on to the college picks last week, Michigan at Iowa, number 4 Michigan, Iowa, big time game. Michigan comes out handily 27-14. This was a unanimous pick. It was a little sketchy early. Obviously, Iowa is one of the best defenses in the country, so it's not surprising that the game started out pretty tight, but Michigan pulls away. I watched a little bit of this game. I'm sure you guys watched a lot, the entire game. I just caught a few couple quarters.
Yeah, as somebody who isn't a huge fan of, I like Blake Corum. I guess not saying I'm not a huge fan, but I'm just not all high and mighty on Blake Corum. Second week in a row where he's got the rock about 30 times and rushed for over 100 yards. So to me, he's proving his legitimacy. He's being durable. He's definitely different than a Donovan Edwards from a talent perspective, but he's doing a hell of a job. So I applaud Blake Corum.
I watched the entire game. A little confused where you're going with that, Kory. Not going to lie. I think Blake Corum is a phenomenal back. I mean,
I'm just not sold on him. I'm just not sold.
Yeah, I mean, I could see he's got a lot of touches, but he's got more runs over 20 yards than anybody else in the nation right now. And a lot of those, most backs have been tackled within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I think he's got great vision, great patience. You watch him get to the hole, he kind of stutters for a second and makes his cut. It's kind of a move that is not natural to do in that position that you see a lot of greats do. But nonetheless, towards the end of this game, Michigan let Iowa back into it a little bit. But Michigan's defensive line pulled through in the end and just made some phenomenal plays. I think they had 3 sacks in a row and 3 sacks in a row and incompletion to end the game. Well before Iowa got the garbage time touchdown. But nonetheless, Michigan won by more than they were favored to. They covered. Good teams win, great teams cover. So nonetheless, great win for Michigan.
Okay, so with that, let's move into our second college game of the week from last week, and that is Grand Valley versus Saginaw Valley, a big-time nationally ranked GLIAC matchup here. Battle of the Valleys. This is considered a rivalry game. It's always tagged as Battle of the Valleys. Number 2 ranked Grand Valley versus number 17 Saginaw Valley. This was a unanimous pick for us. We all picked Grand Valley. We all got this right. Grand Valley pulled away. It was a pretty tight race, I think, in the first half, and Grand Valley pulled away 29-10. Very impressive win. Grand Valley again is ranked number 2 in the nation with a couple wins here over nationally ranked teams, a couple playoff teams from last year. I think this is the year where Grand Valley gives Ferris State finally. That's going to be a big time matchup later this year. I mean,
next week.
That Grand Valley Saginaw, not this coming Saturday. It's the following Saturday.
No, it's the 15th.
Right. So not this upcoming Saturday, but a week after that. So
the old Anchor Bone Classic.
Unfortunately, I will not be able to go to that game, but that would have been a one that I would have loved to have gone to. Anyway, any thoughts on the Grand Valley Saginaw Valley game?
I think Grand Valley's legit.
I think it shows Saginaw Valley though has something too. I mean, they held Grand Valley to under 30 points.
Yep.
They kept it tight, I think, in the first half. I think this was at Grand Valley. So Saginaw Valley is a gauntlet, though. They follow this up with Ferris State this Saturday.
Yeah, it was a good fight by Saginaw Valley, like you said. I think Saginaw Valley is getting a little bit rejuvenated this year as a program. They got a lot of transfers that came in, the young, newer coaching staff. It'll be interesting to see how they sustain that momentum for the future. But Grand Valley is Grand Valley, and they outgained them on quite a bit. Grand Valley had almost 400 yards of offense, whereas Saginaw Valley only had 226 yards of offense. So just looking at that part of it alone, I think the score was a little bit closer than the game might have been. But nonetheless, Battle of Valleys never disappoints.
All right. With that, we're going to get into a couple of our NAIs, or one of our NAI schools here. The state of Michigan, we had Concordia, who at the time was ranked number 15, playing at number 9, nationally ranked Indiana Wesleyan. Brett and I both picked Concordia to pull the slight upset here, and it was a close game. Indiana Wesleyan pulled it off, though, 29-13. Kory picked Indiana Wesleyan. My only add here is, good Lord, I try to pick our Michigan NAI schools, and I feel like they've steered me wrong just about every time I pick them. The only one who seems to be doing well is Siena Heights is actually doing fairly decent right now. They're only sitting at 2-2, but both of their losses were very close losses. Who? Siena Heights? What do you mean? Very close losses to nationally ranked teams, and they just beat a nationally ranked team, 22 nationally ranked St. Francis. So Siena Heights is about the only one I got faith in right now. But anyway, any thoughts on this one? On Concordia, I think falls to 1-3 now.
I get Concordia. Go ahead, Brett.
No, go. I was just gonna say Concordia. They're 1-3. It seems like they still have a little bit of promise. I was surprised that they were ranked number 15 at 1-2.
Remember they played that FCS school down in Florida,
right? Stetson. But yeah, nonetheless, now they're 1-3. Probably going to be unranked. Their quarterback, Gavin Brooks, didn't look like he had much support. He led the team in both passing and rushing this past week, and only rushed for 39 yards, and he led the team. So looks like Concordia had some struggles getting it done on the ground, which is not a good recipe for a win. So, like you said, Vince, these NAIA schools in the state have not been nice to us.
Yeah, I was just going to follow it up with something similar. At 1-3, I think they got to fall out of the top 25. But at the same time, they've had a really goofy schedule, so it's hard to. You're playing a 1AA school. You're playing a team that's going Division II next year. It's just kind of hairy. And then a ranked team.
It's got to be tough to game plan for that. It's a lot of different styles of play. Really, when you go level to level, I don't think size is really that much of a difference at some positions. It is other positions. It's more of a speed thing. Division II
depth too.
Yeah, aside from like offensive line, defensive line, but wideouts, running backs, quarterbacks, D2, D1 are about the same. D3, D2 is pretty close. But yeah, depth is the big one for sure.
With that, let's get into the MIAA. We had an MIAA matchup last week with Alma at Trine. I thought Alma, not that I didn't think they had arrived. I just figured down at Trine, that would be a tough matchup. They proved me wrong. Alma crushed Trine down in Indiana, 40-21. Brett and Kory picked the smart pick here and picked Alma. I picked Trine, so I dropped this one. Guys, Alma's the real deal, man. They're sitting at 5-0. They're right up there with Albion, who is also 5-0. That's going to be a big time matchup when they play each other for the MIAA league play as they're getting into it here. MIAA in general is going to be very fun to watch. Olivet is also 4-0. They had a bye week this last week, so they're at 4-0. But and then
Trine was 4-0.
Trine was 4-0, and then Adrian is 4-1 with a loss to a nationally ranked Heidelberg team. So it's going to be a heck of a race in the MIAA for that title this year.
So I know I tweeted this out on our Twitter page earlier, but Alma's quarterback Carter St. John and the running back Eddie Williams are both freshmen this year, and they've both been on our list numerous times. I want to say like 60% of the time, 3 out of the 5 weeks, for leading the state in their respective statistical categories. Anytime you have a freshman running back and a freshman quarterback leading the way for you and you're 5-0, that's just a recipe for success for coming years, barring any transfer or injuries that can happen. But that's just a testament to the Alma program. It seems like guys are buying into what's currently going on, and I'm really happy for them because historically Alma hasn't been a team that, I don't know, I'd have to fact check this, but when was the last time Alma was 5-0? Maybe we could reach out to our fellow Scott T. Spicy and see if he's got any insight. But I know they weren't 5-0 when he was up in Alma.
Alma was kind of the
5 games in Alma.
Alma was kind of the punching bag in the MIAA for a while there, just like Olivet was for a while. And now it feels like all the MIAA schools have risen to, a competitive level. We talked about it last year, how I think Kalamazoo was the only team in the league last year who didn't have a 500 or better record. So they've all been kind of working towards getting better and better, that's fun for D3 football in the state of Michigan.
And I haven't put it out yet. I'm planning to do it here in a couple weeks and I have a couple more weeks data, but most teams have only played like 2 or 3 home games. But Alma does lead the Michigan schools in the MIAA as far as weekly attendance. They average just shy of 2,500 fans per game, which leads the MIAA.
Oh, wow.
So community's buying into.
That's very cool. Very cool.
So those
The Alma, just a little fun little trivia fact here. Well, trivia fact or just information. The Alma Albion game is the final week. So week 10 or week 11, I guess. They all have a bye game. So week 11 is when Alma and Albion play each other. Although Olivet is also undefeated. So those three teams will all be in the mix, obviously. All right. Our final game of the week for college last week was the Central Michigan at Toledo game. Kory and I both went with the Chippewas. Brett picked Toledo, which I'm sure your brother didn't like to hear that one. But unfortunately, Toledo pulled it off 38-17. Actually, one of the bigger losses for Central Michigan. They, as Brett was saying to us earlier, they actually had a slimmer margin of loss to Oklahoma State and Penn State than they did to Toledo. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything to this game.
Nothing to add.
Yeah, Toledo's quarterback, DeQuan Fenn, Detroit King alum. He's an athlete. He's a good ball player. Toledo's probably going to win the MAC. Central is really struggling in two main areas this year. Number one is on defense. They've been giving up a number of big plays, primarily in the secondary, and they also struggle to stop the run. So this past week, Central Michigan gave up let's see here. They gave up 447 yards through the air and 186 on the ground. Or sorry, no. What did they give up? 447 yards total, 186 through the air, 261 on the ground. But their offense has really struggled to get going, primarily on the ground. Lou Nichols, I think he only had, he had 32 rushing yards this past week. So he's been really struggling to get things going, where last year he led the nation in rushing yards. I think that's due to a number of things. Central lost 2 NFL draft picks from the offensive line last year.
Right. Yeah.
It's always tough to replace. I think that their offensive line is not as good this year as it was last year, but I also think that Lou's got the target on his back, and people crowd the box and force Central to try to throw the ball. Their quarterback's only about 5'10". That's being generous. He has trouble seeing over the line. So I think it's gonna be a struggle to scrape and claw for 6 wins to get to a bowl game. I think it can be done. Pretty much all the tough teams that they played are behind them. They played 2 top 10 teams. They played the favorite to win the Sun Belt in South Alabama. They played the favorite to win the MAC in Toledo. They beat Bucknell, the team that they totally should have beat. But it's gonna be a tough go for them the next coming weeks. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the Chippewas respond, and if McElwain can get that program back trending in the right direction.
Hopefully they can find a way to make a bowl game. They got to win 5 of their last 7.
Find a way.
All right, our games of the week for this week for college football. Not a real exciting week. It was kind of hard for us to find some picks. Obviously, the first game is a big time pick, but the rest of them, not a lot of big games this week for college football. First one is number 1 Ferris State at number 25 Saginaw Valley State. Saginaw Valley follows up playing the number 2 team in the nation with the number 1 team in the nation, although they get to play them at home. Kory, what do you got?
So Saginaw is a pretty hard place to play. They do a good job from like an event standpoint. It's dark there. You ever notice how dark it is outside of that stadium?
It is weird. It's not very well lit once you leave the stadium at night, because I did play there for a couple night games. It's loud though. They get that place. The speakers that place rocks.
So it's dark and it's loud, and I just think Ferris State already has played too much good competition to lose. So Ferris State by a couple touchdowns.
I'm also picking Ferris State. They won big time on the road in North Carolina against a playoff team from last year in Lenore Ryan without their starting quarterback. So I just, the Ferris State to me is in the prove me wrong. I don't see anyone beating them.
I'm also going to pick Ferris State. I was reading some items this week, and Malik Mitchell is rumored to potentially be coming back this week. They've been missing him since week 1 with a lower body injury. Saginaw Valley gave up 235 yards on the ground to Grand Valley, and Ferris State likes to run the ball right at your face right now with the team they have, and I don't think Saginaw Valley can stop them. So Ferris State.
All right, and the next game, we have an MIAA matchup. We have Albion, who is all the way up to number 19 nationally, We were actually looking Alma and Olivet, I think were the other two currently receiving votes. So we have two other teams getting votes from the MIAA. Albion is hosting Hope. Hope's been a little bit of a disappointment, I would say. They opened the year with a couple big time wins, and they have gone 1-2 since. They are now 3-2 on the season. Kory, what do you got here?
Yeah, I think Albion stays hot. Hope is on the ropes, you would say, for this season. So I'm going to take Albion.
I am also going to pick Albion. Albion is scoring 228 points against and only giving 45 up on the season right now. No one else in the MIAA has even come close in terms of their offense and defense overall. The next closest is Alma. Alma's at 219 and giving up 48. Obviously, that'll be a big time matchup at the end of the season. Brett?
I'm going to make it unanimous. I'm going to go Albion as well. Like you said, they've just been scoring a lot of points, not giving up very many points. Not a good recipe. Although I do think this will be closer than some of the games they've had with Hope, but Albion's going to win. The Brits.
All right, the next game is out of the MAC. We have an interstate MAC matchup here. We have Eastern Michigan at Western Michigan. We have an Eastern Michigan team who currently is sitting at 3-2 with a big time win out of Arizona State. And then a Western Michigan team sitting at 2-3. Eastern Michigan just dropped their MAC opener actually to Buffalo, who is 2-0 in the MAC right now. And Western Michigan picked up a MAC win this past week No,
they beat New Hampshire.
They beat Ball State week 2. I was trying to remember when they played their MAC matchup. It was at Ball State week 2. Kory, what you think here?
Historically, the Broncos have been the better of the two teams, but I think the roles have switched. And I'm going to take Eastern Michigan and their gray field, even though it's at Western.
I am also going to pick Eastern Michigan. I am very impressed with their win on the road at Arizona State. I think their loss to Buffalo, I think, was a bit of an anomaly. I think Buffalo's just playing very well right now. Buffalo's on a 2-game win streak. So I'm going to go with the Eagles.
I'm going to go Eastern as well. I don't think Western's any good this year. They struggle at the quarterback position. Eastern's got better wins. It's on the road, but I still think Eastern will come out victors.
I'm going to skip over our number 4 game because it's the Lions. We'll end with the Lions here. So actually, I'll skip to our last game just because our last game is a college matchup. It's another GLIAC matchup. We have Davenport at Northern Michigan, which is very interesting for a couple reasons. One, Davenport is very hot right now. Davenport is sitting at 4-0. But Northern Michigan is coming off a very impressive road win at at Wayne State and sitting at 3-2. And Davenport has to go up to Northern Michigan. We've mentioned this before. It's very hard, these road trips all the way up to the UP for the GLIAC schools. Traditionally, it's always a very challenging thing to have to do. Kory, what do you think here?
Also, to mention that these both are Tony Anise proteges. So it'll be interesting. They'll know each other. They'll know what they like. I actually believe Davenport's coach was the DC and Northern Michigan's coach was the OC, both at Ferris a couple years ago. So there might be a little bad blood here. But I'm going to say Davenport's got too much talent for NMU right now. And I'm going to stick to that.
I'm also going to pick Davenport. I would love to pick Northern Michigan this upset, especially being at home with that being a long trip for Davenport. But I agree with Kory. I think Davenport's got a lot of talent right now. They've got a couple impressive wins already at 4-0. And I think it might be a close game early, but I think Davenport pulls this out with their talent.
I'm picking Davenport as well. I think the Panthers are going to win this ball game. Is this Panthers versus Panthers? I think it is. Wildcats. Okay. So Jason Whitaker, quarterback at Davenport, former Rockford High School quarterback, Northwestern Wildcat. He's took over the
Oh
quarterback.
yeah! Oh my gosh! I do
Yeah,
remember
he
that.
took over the quarterback duties at Davenport a couple weeks ago, and the Davenport offense has just skyrocketed since. So, be interesting to see how he fares up in the Upe.
All right, and with that, our last game of the week, we will end with our lie downs here, who have been very frustrating. The Lions are currently scoring; they are currently the highest scoring team in the NFL, but they are 1-3 in the most Lions form. It's just so Lions. Anyway, the Detroit Lions are playing at New England Patriots, a rematch of former head coach Fat Trisha in his new role. Kory, who you got?
Lions couldn't stop a nosebleed on defense right now. But I also just had a thought pop into my head. If Dan Campbell and Matt Patricia squared off at midfield, I feel like Dan Campbell would literally beat the living shit out of Patricia. Kind of funny to think about.
I think he would run away. I think he would just run away.
He would catch him. What do you mean? Dan Campbell's like a
No,
lion.
I know, but I don't see him just like he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would fight someone. He just seems like I don't know. I don't want to say a coward, but he kind of seems.
Who?
Like,
Patricia?
yes.
Oh, he's a coward.
Yeah.
He's a giant vagine. To Tate's point earlier on the show, it's kind of interesting also that Matt Patricia is now the OC at New England, where he was once the defensive guru. But nonetheless, I think the Patriots suck, and I think that I don't necessarily think we figure out the defense, but I think the defense plays better this week. I'm going to take the Lions.
I'm also going to take the Lions. It would be tough to it's tough, man. It'd be tough to pick the Patriots, but I feel like at some point this team has to find a way to win. They can't keep losing by 3 points. I mean, at some point, their defense and they've been talking, in interviews and putting things out that they're doing some personnel changes. I mean, obviously, Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell have got to make some changes. Defense, some things have to happen. So I would like to think that they have this week to prep and figure out something defensively so that they can finally finish games. I mean, you have an offense that can't be stopped. Their offense is the highest scoring offense in the league. At some point, the defense just needs to find a few stops and they win games. So I'm going to go with the Lions.
I'm going to go with the Lions as well. I think that, like you said, they just got to find a way to get it done. I think there's going to be some bad blood trying to win over Patricia. I think the Lions should fire Aaron Glenn. I think that.
Wow.
I think
right
that
now. You think right now?
Yes, right now. Last year when they took over the duties on offense from Anthony Lynn, the offense was immediately better. I think it's similar. And you can't tell me that Lions offense last year had any more players than Lions defense this year. The Lions defense has some guys, and they have some guys hurt. But there's some pieces of the puzzle there. But to give up 48 points to Seattle,
41. There was a pick six.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. 41 points to Seattle. That's still almost more points than they had
against Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith. And they scored. Yeah, Geno Smith, the guy that couldn't make it as a New York Jet. I mean, let's be real. Aaron Glenn needs to get fired, and I will take that to the grave. He's done nothing to impress me. But nonetheless, I think that the Patriots are on their third string quarterback right now, and Brady Zappi with Mac Jones and Brian Hoyer out. So I think that'll give the Lions an opportunity to win, even though it is in Foxborough. Last time Lions played in Foxborough, I was at the game.
Nice.
Really?
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
That's where we were going to go this year, but it was so expensive we decided not to.
I went there with my brother, and when we were waiting in line to get in, everyone was heckling us, saying, "Hey, Lions fans, did you guys drive here? Or did you ride each other?" It's like, oh, funny, dude.
Dude, I didn't know your wife had a lasso on.
Did you ask them if their dads all beat their moms and all their dads are alcoholics who work on the docks? And
well,
any other Boston stereotype you can think of?
You should ask if they're getting happy ending massages with Robert Kraft in mind.
Yeah. I think this was before that happened, actually.
Oh, shit.
Brady was still their quarterback too, so there wasn't much we could say. But
All right, with that, I think we should wrap things up here with Brett's recommendation of the week.
So, my recommendation of the week is going to be a unique one. It is a Costco reference. So for those of you that shop at Costco, I was very anti-Costco. I think you go in and you just buy too much. But as I've grown older and I've
loves Costco,
become
I
more
hate
and more
Costco.
appreciative of Costco. It is a $300 to $400 stop. It's impossible to spend
Every time.
less. But I am recommending their pants. They have pants. They have pants that are, I think they're like $12.99, and they look like they're $60.99, and they fit thick-thighed folk like myself fantastically.
Thick-thighed folk. Say that 3 times fast.
Almost an alliteration.
Thick-thighed folk. But I know you guys are thick-thighed folk, so I highly recommend the pants.
Say that on the label, thick-thighed folk.
No, they just fit great, and they're a little bit stretchy. They're nice.
Oh boy.
So that's my
Jeans,
my
perhaps?
recommendation. They're not jeans. They're more of like, it's like a faux denim. I don't know.
Oh.
They're great. They're great.
As one thick-thighed folk to another thick-thighed folk, Old Navy makes a athletic taper pant,
Yep.
and it's the only pant that fits my thighs.
You haven't tried Costco.
I am a stretchy Levi's guy.
The 541 jeans, the 541 Levi 541s.
Yeah, they're stretchy. You got lots of room to move around. They're great. Love them. All right, that's a very interesting. That's a first on the podcast, recommending pants. I love it. Usually you got beer or movies or a location to go somewhere, do something, but no, we got pants.
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 It's a unique night. All right, with that, we hope you enjoyed episode 32 here of Great Lakes State Football. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Tate Baker. Please check out his stuff. The links will be in the description of the audio and video versions of the podcast. Find us on Great Lakes State Football, or find us on Twitter at GLSF Ball. Find us on Instagram at Great Lakes State Football. If you like the video version of this podcast, subscribe to us on YouTube, Great Lakes State Football. Give us thumbs up or comments on our videos over there. Audio versions available on Apple and Spotify. Add us to your library if those are your preferred methods of listening. And please leave us a 5-star review and or comment on those stores as well. I'm Vince. Episode 32, Great Lakes State Football with Kory and Brett.
Brett, baby. Be money.
I'm also not saying go green again this week because they're sucking ass. So go Comets and go Lions.
And go Blue and go Lakers and go Comets and
go Chargers.